Okay, what's going on, everybody? I am Mang, and welcome back to Roll Mangging for our Call of Cthulhu campaign. I know that last time I said that I would see you in 3 weeks, and it has not been 3 weeks, but we had decided to do just a random middle-of-the-week session to kind of just bridge the gap between the sessions, which was nice, so we didn't just have a 3-week break there. We did get to cut that in half, so... yeah, we played tonight for a few hours. 4? Yeah, about 4. So that was nice. And we got a new player. We found our 6th player, but we lost our 5th player, apparently. Ed has not been seen or heard from in quite a while. The word on the street is exams, but... I don't know how it is in England. I guess if you have 2 months of exams, okay, but at least, you know, at some point during your 18-hour exam day, you could pop in on Facebook and tell us. I don't know. So, his character, I don't remember what character, Maximilian Pegasus. Yeah, that character is out of the campaign. Even if he does come back next session, he has to make a new character. And so, I don't know. I'm going under the assumption that he is out of the campaign, so... but we did find another player, same player that is doing, playing as Commander Kill in our D&D game, so, it's nice to have him on board. This is his first time playing Call of Cthulhu, and, jumping into the middle of this campaign, for your first time, I'm sure is pretty crazy, so he mostly just kind of sat there and was absorbing what was going on, but he did do, a crucial interaction for these sessions, so we'll get to that a little bit later. Alright, so we started up the session February 23rd, 1925, which was a Monday, and due to some choppy weather on the ship, their arrival in Port Said, I don't know how to pronounce it. I said Said, but it might not be right. For a day. So the 23rd was basically just a do-nothing day. Nothing intense was going on. And Jessica Harrington decided she wanted to try and seduce Golk. So she got really loaded up on vodka, went over to his room, and then laid down on the floor and asked him to lay there with her. And then she woke up in her room a few hours later and she doesn't remember anything. She really tried to strain herself to remember just anything that had happened, and she lost some sanity because she saw just some horrific flashes of images in her head. So, yeah. Who knows what happened? Don't seduce Gold. So yeah, that was pretty much the whole day. February 24th, 1925, Tuesday. They arrive in Port Said, right by the Suez Canal. And so they go through customs, and Reginald, of course, has his fake passport, and so he gets through no problem, but they do search his belongings. They find a revolver, and so they take it. Not much you're going to do about that. And Jessica Harrington gets through. Sancho gets through, who still thinks he's Charlie Chalk. So they call him Sancho because that's what's on his passport, but he assumes it's some Arabic slang or something, like an Arabic greeting. So he's just like, oh, thank you, Sancho. And so he moves along. And then Richard Blackstone he gets his gun confiscated because I guess his permit wasn't in order. So, no firearms going in except for Golk. Golk gets through customs no problem. All right, so they're in Port Said, and they have to take a train ride. It's about a 5-hour train ride to get to Cairo. And so Golk's like, before we get on the train, why don't we have a drink? So, Ziggy's like, of course he'll listen to Golk. So, so they go into the bar, Shepherd's, and they sit down. And Golk, nudges Reginald and is like, that man in the corner there. He is going to join our investigation, and he will die a painful death. It is up to you to convince him to join us. And this is, of course, our new player, his new character, Roland. And Roland is kind of a bootlegger. He's running alcohol out of Egypt and into Egypt. And he's kind of into the whole criminal network there. And so I was like, this random person, he's brand new to the campaign. I didn't tell him almost anything about the campaign. I just said it was kind of a transcontinental adventure. So he's brand new to everything. He's in Port Said, where they arrive. How do I get them introduced? I was like, what, screw it. I have the perfect situation here. I'm just going to let Reginald introduce him. So it's just like, Golk just like, he's joining us. It's up to you to convince him. It was like such an easy way out for me. Just put it all on him. And so he goes over there and he starts chatting him up. And he's like, this guy clearly looks out of sorts compared to everybody else. He's Caucasian in a nice suit and everything. And so Reginald's like, you could clearly be doing better than working here in Port Said. Why don't you come with us to Cairo? We're part of this little thing. It could, pay well, and it's got, there's adventure to it, and, stuff like that. He's like, okay, Because, when you join a new campaign, and you're the new guy, and they've already been playing, just go along with everything. You don't, because what else are you really going to, you're not going to be like an asshole about it. You don't know anything. So just be okay, When you're part of the campaign, you can start to question things, I guess. But in general, you realize that it's just, we're doing this to get you as part of the group. Just go along with it. So we all drink up, we get on the train, and we're off to Cairo. And so during the train ride, Richard is back in the back with Sancho, Charlie, Sanchok, and Richard is telling him all about some famous archaeological finds and whatnot, and Sanchok is just sleeping. So, and Reginald, Roland, and Golk are all sitting together, and so Reginald is telling him about the Carlisle expedition, just real basic stuff. And this was interesting because this was a character who knew nothing about it and a player who knew nothing about it. So this was a complete fresh go-through, which we haven't had since the start, really. And so this was, Ziggy telling this character, in character, what was going on here. And so it's great to realize that, they finally realize what's going on here. Like, this is about the Carlisle expedition. Way back then, they didn't give two shits about that. So it's good they realize now. And so he told them about Roger Carlyle and how they got lost in Africa and Kenya, and they're following the trails of Jackson Elias and stuff like that. Just real minor details, nothing major. And so then Reginald's like, Golk, why don't you show him one of your magic tricks? And Golk's like, well, hey, you got that cool mask, why don't you show him that? And we're just like, everybody's like, oh, God. And again, Roland doesn't know. He's like, what? Mask? What? And so he pulls out the mask. And Reginald's like, I don't know about this, CoC. Oh, it's harmless. I've worn it hundreds of times. Just put it on. Okay, and so he gives the masks to Roland. And Roland's like, okay. And he puts it to his face. And I'm not doing a Secrets of Role Mangging for this episode because not a huge amount happened. And I'm about to go on vacation. And I just... it's whatever. I'm not going to do it. So... I'll just tell you here what really was going on. So I rolled the d4 for the vision, and I rolled a 1. And for my companion thing, it's got the 4 visions listed, and it lists Shub-Niggurath first. And so I thought that was 1. And so I was like, well, I kind of just read that one like the other session, so I'll just read Azathoth. So, I read him the Azathoth one, I had him roll Sanity, he failed, he lost 61 Sanity points. He had 50. So, instantly insane. And so everybody was like, holy shit, like he's been in the campaign for 5 minutes. And so, I was like, yeah man, I'm not pulling any punches. And so... they were like he went into just like catatonic shock, and he was just like this, and like, you know, his character. And so Reginald rushed back and grabbed Richard Blackstone, who's a first aid, he's got first aid, and they checked him out. He's like, this man is in shock, you know. And it was like, CoC, what are we doing? I'm like, And so CoC snapped his fingers. Richard Blackstone is sitting there talking to Sanchok as if nothing happened. Reginald is holding the mask, and Roland is just kind of sitting there, and he's like, you know, what's that mask? And so, basically what happened was, I wanted him to get the mask, but I wanted him to succeed on the sanity check. Just to get that little taste. When he failed, I was like, well, I'm not going to pull any punches, but we'll just see. So he failed. I rolled sanity 61. I was like, holy shit, you know. And then they were going through it, and I was hearing everybody's like astonishment. You know, he's like, his character's done, you know. And I was like, you know, that seems pretty cruel. I don't want to do that. And so I just kind of did time, you know, that never happened. But Roland's character has like this headache and like visions of something dark in his mind, but he can't. So it like happened, but we went to like an alternate reverse timeline where it didn't happen, but his character, like, it was weird, you know, weird. And so basically I did that to just like fuck with him, fuck with the player and the character, and to just give him a taste of what Call of Cthulhu can bring. If that was, you know, Reefley's new character or something, I might not have reversed it. It's hard to say. You know, metagaming is pretty heavy nowadays, so they probably wouldn't put on the mask anyways, but you never know. It's how I feel at the moment, and I didn't feel like screwing over a guy like that quickly. The other thing was, I later looked at the actual chart in the campaign book, and for the mask, and 1 is listed as Nodens. And I was like, oh shit, he had gotten the Nodens vision and I screwed him. So I feel much less bad about my decision then, because he should have gotten a Nodens vision, which would have been crazy, actually. I should have just given him the Nodens vision regardless of what he rolled. Because that'd be like, you put on this mask, you never, like, you don't know anything about anything that's going on, and suddenly you're speaking to this, like, godlike figure, and he tells you you can ask him any question. Like, what kind of question would he even ask? Crazy. But what happened, and it's done with. So yeah, they were just like, CoC's just like, put that mask away, I'll show him a magic trick. And so he's like, I got your nose, but he's like actually got his nose, but then he like puts his hand up to his face and his nose is there, and it's just like, yeah. Just, yeah. Okay, so that was pretty much all that happened. And so they arrive in Cairo. And why do I have that listed as a new day? Oh, because it was a new day. Yeah, I'm dumb. Okay, no, so they arrive in Cairo, and they know that the best hotel in the area is, well, it's actually called Shepherd's, but I had just used that name for a bar, so I couldn't do that. So I had to use the name of the second best hotel for the best hotel, which was called Sarah Shashim or something Arabic-ish. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. These are the things I should write down, but I digress. And so this hotel is pretty damn nice. You know, it's the nicest one in Cairo. It's got a restaurant, a bar, a grill, dance floor. It's got a garden, a terrace. You know, it's all pretty sweet. So they go there, they get sweets, and Jessica Harrington's like, well, I'll pay for everybody's room. And I'm like, how much money do you have? And apparently her dad's rich. And so I'm like, she's like, I got a 75 credit rating. I'm like, all right, roll a credit rate. I just want to see this. He rolls a 76. And I'm laughing my ass off. I'm like, the one thing you're supposed to be, you know, you can provide for these people, and you can't even do that. So we're like, you know, she pays for everybody's room but one. So, but this makes her real depressed. And so she's got to call her daddy for more money. And so she gets on the phone with her daddy, and he's just like, I can't afford this right now, Jessica. Where are you? You haven't spoken to your mother and I in months. Where are you right now? What's going like trouble in the Harrington household. And little did he know those were the last words he'd ever say to his daughter. Alright. So yeah, they all check into their rooms, their suites. And they're like, you know, we can save the investigating for tomorrow. Tonight, let's just go to a club. And sure enough, they just all got dressed and went out to a nightclub. I was kind of surprised. Even Reginald went with them. And so they went out to the club, and Jessica tried to just get free drinks from all the guys, but she completely botched everything. And so she just had a bunch of Arabic men calling her a whore over and over and stuff. And so she ran out of there crying. It just wasn't her day, man. And everybody was kind of drinking, dancing, and Golk was just burning up the dance floor, and there was like this circle of people around him just chanting his name, and he's just, you know, doing all the craziest moves, and then he does his big finale, and the lights all go out, and then when they come back on, he's just gone, because he's so cool. Yeah. Alright, and then they pretty much went back, and they went to bed. Alright. February 25th, 1925, which was a Wednesday. So they decide, okay, we're gonna do our investigation now. And so Reginald is the leader of the group at this point. Although, you know, Golk is really the leader of the group, but okay, Reginald's the leader of the group. Like, so where do we start? What do we do? And Reginald's like, well, I think we should just wander around Cairo a bit and see what's going on. And I'm just like, and even the others were like, I don't know about that. So I'm like, Golk's like, well, Reginald, Jonah gave you that letter, right? And so the others were like, yeah, Faraz Najir. Because they couldn't say it as characters, because none of them know what the hell, you know, who the hell Jonah Kensington even is. But Reginald has the letter in his pocket, so he pulls it out, you know, read the letter, Faraz Najir, the Street of Jackals, blah, blah, blah. Like, alright, this is a good first destination. And then like, do we know how to get there? And so Ren suggested hiring a guide. So they go down to the concierge, they ask him some questions, and he's trying to get some guides, because the hotel handles the guides. You know, they get plenty of tourists. And so they're all just hanging out there. And the guy comes out and he's like, all our guides are occupied right now. I'm sorry, you know, perhaps tomorrow or in a couple days we can get somebody, but, You know, plenty of tourists out there need guides. And so then they're approached by a young man. Oh, they were also... Oh, yeah, I completely missed... Man, my note-taking is getting worse and worse. On the way to the hotel when they first arrived in Cairo. Okay. Yeah, on their way to the hotel, Richard was supposed to lead them to the hotel, and he went down the wrong alley. And so they got jumped by a few men. And they pulled out knives and everything, but then Roland busted out a Tommy gun. He's got a violin case, and he keeps his Tommy gun in there, so he pulls this shit out. And while this is going on, the only person in the group that speaks Arabic, other than, of course, Golk, is Richard Blackstone. He doesn't have a full grasp of the language. He has a 40 in it, which means he knows a lot of the basic phrases, but anytime he really, anytime an Arabic person is speaking, he generally has to roll. And anytime he tries something complicated, it actually worked out. He had like an Arabic phrases, like site or something up, and so he was occasionally rattling off small phrases. And I was like, that's good, because anytime he wanted to say something he didn't have a phrase for, I was like, all right, roll. So throughout this whole time, there's a lot of occasional confusions regarding what he said, and we'll get to the big moment later. But all right, so he's trying to talk down these thugs in this alley in Arabic, and it's just not working out. So Roland busts out the Tommy gun, and Golk busted out some flawless Arabic, and eventually they back down. Between the Tommy gun and this short little dude speaking perfect Arabic, telling them how Reginald's gonna kill him and shit. So yeah, they're like, all right, it's not worth it. So okay. So anyways, this young man approaches them outside the hotel and speaking not incredible English, asking that they need a guide. And so they're a little wary, as you can imagine. They just got jumped on the way there, but by somebody that looks similar to this guy. But they're like, we need a guide. So they ask him if he knows the way to Street of Jackals. He's like, yes, it's 30 minutes. I can get you there. So, okay. So they start following him. And, of course, it's a trap. Of course it is. So this guy, Hakeem, leads them down another alley. And 3 men jump out. And they all pull out knives and shit. And Reginald's just like, screw it, I'm done with this shit. He says that. And he uses Fist of Yog-Sothoth on Hakeem. Keeping in mind that Reginald has 20 magic points at this point, which means he is quite a potent spellcaster. So he spends just a smidge of it, like 8 points, on this spell, on Hakeem. And he just wallops Hakeem with this spectral punch. Just sends him flying, kills him like instantly, knocking out the other dude that was behind him. The other 2 guys just run, and everybody else in the group is just like, hey, good job. And I'm just like, this dude just said he's done with this shit, and the dude in front of him flew back 20 feet. Like, what is going... Like, you don't care? Like, is the metagaming that strong that you're just like, oh yeah, he's a sorcerer, duh. Like, if this were an NPC, you'd all be busting out your guns instantly, like, you're my... Like... But it's Reginald Steinway, so okay. I don't know. That was really strange. Never trust a spellcaster, ever. In any Call of Cthulhu ever, never trust a spellcaster, because they are paying a price for those spells, and they generally don't use them for good. But, because power corrupts, man. Power corrupts. Alright, so as they're kind of sitting there examining this guy's body and robbing him, they hear this voice from behind of a small lad. He's like, holy shit! And so this is Mahmoud. And Mahmoud is another guy, and he says he can get them to the Street Jackals, and he hated Hakeem, calls him an asshole. So he's liking these guys that took care of Hakeem and his thugs. And so Reginald, I think, gives him some money. He's like, all right. So he leads them to the Street of Jackals, no problem. and they find Faraz's they find his shop, but it's burned to the ground. It's just like a crater. And so Mahmoud says that the stories around here say that 5 years ago, a horrible demon came down upon his shop and burned it to the ground. And Richard Blackstone's like, well, I don't believe in, fairy tales. And so he goes up to a guy just kind of walking by. And he's like, he says in Arabic, or he attempts to say in Arabic, sir, do you know what happened to this man's shop? So I had him roll Arabic. And he rolled 100. Critical fail. As bad as you can get. And I'm just like, oh my god. You see the man in front of you just instantly start pointing at you and swearing and cursing in Arabic as loud as he can. And Mahmoud's just like, why did you say that? And they're all just like, oh my, oh, this was bound to happen, man. And, they later ask Mahmoud, what did he say, and he's just like, I don't want to repeat it. Just horribleness. And, it's like, I have a growing grasp of French right now. I'm not sure if I could accidentally say something that horrible, like, me attempting to say something, I feel like I would have an okay grasp of what I'm trying to say, and if I didn't, then I wouldn't say anything. But it's just funny, because it's just how roles go, and you're like, alright, well, he told him he was going to have Allah piss on his daughters, and all sorts of, just horribleness. Alright, so a crowd starts forming, and they start, throwing rocks at him, so Richard just gets the hell out of there, as the group just is kind of like, we don't know him, And so they're like, I think Reginald starts asking about a place to shop. A place where a bunch of shopkeepers are. And so he asks Mahmoud, and Mahmoud's like, yeah, there's the bazaar. It's a huge place. We can go there. So they all go to the bazaar, and they all shop. Well, they don't all shop. Reginald goes and gets a nice set of new clothes. And, Richard buys, a piece of sharpened copper. Because he had learned a spell that required a dagger of pure metal. And so he wanted just the smallest, cheapest thing he could get. So he was just going to get a piece of sharp copper and wrap some leather around the base of it. Jessica Harrington bought some earrings. She dug some money out of her thong and bought some earrings. Sanchak bought some food with Mahmoud. And then he got the address for Faraz Najir's new shop. And Faraz Najir's new shop location is supposed to be a bit cryptic. You have to talk to the right person, and you have to successfully entice them to tell you. And in a game where I don't care about money too much, you say you give £5 away, whatever. It might be too easy to just be like, well, I give him £5 and he tells me. But I don't really care. If it keeps things moving along at a fine pace, then just do it, I want them to find his shop. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, because they're going to find trouble no matter what they do, no matter how easy it is. They're going to find bad things. And so, don't worry about the mundane. So yeah, they get the location for Faraz's new shop. Roland goes off to talk to some of his illegal contacts that he knows around there. And they tell him just some interesting little tidbits about the Clive expedition and how there's supposedly a missing mummy. And I think that's about it. Yeah. Alright, so they all meet back up and they go to Faraz's new shop. And it's basically just a shop of tourist bullshit. Nothing really of any interest at all, just little trinkets and baubles and nonsense. And so Faraz Najir comes out of the back room, and he's basically like Two-Face. He's like an Arabic Two-Face. Like, he's got burn marks and welts and shit all over. He's not a pretty man. And this was like, nobody wanted to speak English to this guy. It was hilarious. The sign on the front of the shop was written in English, Arabic, and French. And so Faraz Najir speaks, native Arabic, just fine. It's his preferred language, but he's got a 30% in French and a 30% in English. So Reginald waltzes in speaking flawless French. And I'm just like, oh god. And so you have Reginald speaking perfect French, which Faraz doesn't really speak great. Then you have Richard trying to speak to him in Arabic, which Richard doesn't speak great, but Faraz speaks fine. And then you have Sanchok speaking Spanish for some reason. It's just like, somebody talk to this guy in English, or, that wouldn't even have helped either. You just have Mahmoud speak to him. And so Reginald goes up to him, and he's like, tell me what you know about the Carlisle expedition. And so Faraz instantly just like, and he starts shouting in Arabic to get out of his shop and stuff like that. And they were just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so he's like shooing him out. And so Sanchok goes to the door and he closes it. And he just stands there. And so Faraz grabs like a beautiful dull scimitar off the wall, and he starts like shaking it at him. He's like, get out, in Arabic. And so they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so Reginald starts threatening the guy in French. And they continue to try and talk him down in English, in Arabic, and whatever. It does not work. Really, they would have had a crit, but yeah, it does not work. And so Reginald's eventually had enough of this, and so he casts Destroy Physicality at him. So he's just, bah! And he succeeds, and he doesn't put a whole lot of oomph into it, but it does about 5 damage, which on a normal person you'd just be like, but he'd still be, But Faraz Najir has not had a good history with fire, as you can imagine. And so this triggers like a relapse or something like that. And yeah, he goes into shock. And he just starts yelling one word in Arabic over and over and over. And Mahmoud is like, he's got his back to the wall after he just saw this. And he starts yelling the same word over and over. And Reginald's like, Golk, what does it mean? And Golk's just like, it means demon. And now Sanchok tried to like have this trigger some memories, if you remember what happened to Sanchok, and it didn't work. He's just got like this dull headache. It's like there's something there, but he can't quite get it. Oh, actually, no, that was when he started chanting the spell. Yeah, Reginald had to chant the spell, so they were all like, huh? And Richard Blackstone used Cthulhu Mythos to see if he could recognize anything. And he did recognize that Reginald was calling upon the might of Cthulhu to smite his enemies. And so, yeah, Sancho got the dull headache. But then when he blasted him, that triggered it. And so Sancho came back, Charlie Chalk left. And so, now, with Sancho, the timeline went from... He was on the boat, he was in his room, he's talking to Reginald, and then suddenly he's in a small crowded shop in Cairo. This man has just been burned horribly, and there's some people in here he's never met before, and he doesn't know how he got to Cairo. Okay, so She's like, what the hell is going on? And so they go over to Faraz, and Reginald's just like, tell me what you know! And so eventually he stops shouting, and he tells everything he knows in Arabic. And so Golk has to repeat this all. And he tells, basically what he said was that Roger Carlyle was interested, I guess, in the period of Egyptian history where the Black Pharaoh roamed. You know, he ruled, whatever. And Faraz had come upon a number of artifacts related to the Black Pharaoh, and he had attempted to sell them to Carlyle's agent, Warren Bassart. And there was also, like, the Brotherhood was active here, rumored, and they apparently were interested in something of the Mosque of Ibn Tulun, and I'm trying to remember all this just off the top of my head, so this is vague, but, you know, the major key points here is Warren Bassart, who is Carlyle's agent, and the Mosque of Ibn Tulun, and the Brotherhood is hanging around, Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh. That's pretty much all he said. And so Golk then pointed out this necklace that the dude had on, so Reginald grabbed that. And then Reginald stabbed Faraz Najir through the throat. And he tried to get away with it sneakily, but he didn't quite do it. So everybody heard these last gurgles from Faraz. Like, what the fuck? And so Sancho then rushes forward and he, like, grapples Reginald. He just to stop the violence. And so Reginald tries to talk him down. He's like, Sancho, you know, he calls him Charlie still, because he didn't know he switched. Charlie, what are you doing? And so Golk is just like yelling in Reginald's head, just like, say the word, Reginald, say the word. And eventually Reginald's like, well, he tells Golk in his head, he's like, well, basically he told me. He's like, I'm going to roll dice. And he has an 80% chance that he's going to try to get through this on his own. And 20% chance that he's just going to ask Golk for help. So he rolled like a 17 or 16. So he tells Sancho to just put him down and he'll explain everything. And so Sancho puts him down. And he casts Fist of the Yogg-Sothoth. He did only have like 8 points left. And I was like, that's boring. So he made an instant pact with Golk there in the moment, and so he went back up to 20 points, but he lost a pinky. This is completely inconsequential, and Golk kind of knows this. But, you know, it's temporary magic points, basically, for a permanent finger loss. But since Reginald's in a pretty tough spot, who cares? And so he throws a Fist of Yogg-Sothoth out there, and it freaking hurts, man. It was, yeah, painful. So Sancho just goes flying through the wall, flying through this, you know, I don't even know what material it is that these buildings would be made of. Stone, I guess. Stone wall. Crashes right through it. He's dead. He's dead. It doesn't give damage for something like that, but I'm ruling he's dead. Head first through a stone wall, enough to break through. Yeah, you're dead. And so everybody's like, holy shit! And Roland is right on the ball, busts out his Tommy gun, one shot, Reginald's dead. Yeah, that is the end of Reginald Steinway. I think before he died, he told them all to make a pact with Nyarlathotep, the Dark God, or something like that. And so they got Cthulhu Mythos bump for hearing the name Nyarlathotep. And boom, he died. End of Reginald Steinway, the campaign's longest running character. Now, you may be asking why Golk did not save Reginald. That's mostly because of a metagame thing where Ziggy was like, we had this thing where, like, if it was an NPC, Golk would probably protect him. But if it's a player character, we'll just let it happen, because then that's... I don't want to... Because then it's just the Golk and Reginald show. So if another player character wants to try to kill Reginald, I'll let it happen. And sure enough, there it was. So that was a great death for Reginald at the cost of Sancho, which was a lovable character. I did like him. And, you know, you may call me out for being bullshit, that just, you know, I favored Reginald and just kill off characters, whatever, no problem, but Reginald made a dark pact, you know, and he paid for it. He wasn't really in complete control of his character much, and he did lose stats occasionally. He did have to do kind of horrible things that a character normally wouldn't have to do. He got some benefits out of it, but he ended up dead just the same, so whatever. I'm sorry Sancho died, but they're all gonna die. Over and over. Till the end of the campaign. That's what this is. So I'm not gonna feel bad about any one character dying. I'm sorry. Now, if Reginald had called upon Golk for help in that moment, we'd have a near TPK. Reginald probably would have gone insane. I probably would have ruled that. Just like the scene that he would have witnessed in that shop would have driven him insane. But he would have survived. And Jessica Harrington actually ran out of the shop, I think, after like the scorching happened. So she ran out of the shop. She would have survived. So it would have been hilarious to continue from that point. We would have had an insane Reginald under my control, and Jessica Harrington as the leader of the investigation. And Golk, I guess. That would have been trouble. But I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. I wouldn't want to work with that. But anyways, so they're just, Golk's just, after they shoot him, Golk's just like, well, nice shot. He was really trouble. Let's get out of here. Because Reginald did not say make a dark pact with Golk. He said make a dark pact with Nyarlathotep. Very kind of him. Golk thanked him for that as he died. So they all get out of there and they run back to the hotel. So it's Golk, Roland, and Richard. Jessica is nowhere to be found, and Mahmoud is just... I think Mahmoud went into shock as well at what he had just witnessed from these people. So he may crop up again. I have to think about it while I'm on vacation if I want to see what Mahmoud is going to do. Part of me says we'll never see him again. He just wants nothing to do with anything of that. He's just going to go back to stealing or something. Part of me wants to say he'll come back in a negative capacity. Like, maybe he heard that name Nyarlathotep. And he saw the power that Reginald had. And he killed Hakim like he was nothing. And, that power. Maybe he likes that. Dude, making Hakim like a fucking sorcerer, or making Mahmoud a sorcerer under the sway of the dark god Nyarlathotep. Oh my god! I'm a horrible bastard. I may run with that. We'll see. Again, that's something I would say for Secrets of Role Mangging. So there you go. You got a little tidbit if you're part of the campaign. No metagaming now. Alright. So yeah, they run back to the hotel. And they go up to Reginald's room. And they get in there and they start rummaging through. And they see the paintings. So they see the one normal painting. Not normal, but not extreme. And they don't lose sanity from that. Then they see the wonderful painting. And I didn't mention that. But when Reginald arrived at the hotel, he put up his painting, of the weird Shipley painting. And then Golk's like, I sure missed that other painting. And Reginald's like, I thought we left that in London. And Golk's like, well, maybe. Reginald's like, well, I'm sure if you wanted, it would be right here in this room, on a wall. And Golk's like, you mean that wall right behind you? Voila! So there it was. And so they go in there and they see this painting. And the metagame was strong within these two. Especially Richard Blackstone, because Roland had no idea. He's never heard of this thing before, but Richard Blackstone was like, I'm just looking for like a journal or something. Like, yeah, but you glance at it. So I had him roll power times 5, which normally you wouldn't have to roll. It's a completely voluntary choice. But I don't know. Golk is fucking with him. I don't care. So they both fail on their power times 5, so they're drawn to look at the painting. And so they both start looking at it. They see the color swirl and ripple. And they're just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. So I'm like, all right, I won't be a complete dick. So I let them get another power times 5 roll. And they both succeeded. So I'm like, all right, you can look away if you want to. And Richard's just like, oh, I look away. I'm like, yeah, Roland, but why would you have any reason to look away? And so Richard's just like, oh, I grab him and I pull him away. You don't want to look at that. Next time, Golk. And so they rummage through his room. They find his briefcase, which of course Golk knows the combination to. And there's no journal. They find a bunch of scrolls from the Gavigan. They find a couple books. They find a bunch of money. And they find the mask. And so they read through the scrolls, which are just basically like poems to Nyarlathotep. They lose some more sanity. They pocket the money. I think they grab the books. And then they get the mask. And Richard's like, oh, this mask. Because Richard Blackstone is, coloring himself as kind of a student of the world, I guess. He wants to learn about everything he can. He's an archaeologist and all that. So he sees this tribal mask and he's very curious. It's definitely unique. It's a wood he's never seen before. And he sees it's been worn by people. And so he's like, this was, man, oh man, this is pretty Ed metagaming here. He's like, all right, I'm moving the mask towards my face very slowly. Roland, you can shout something to stop me if you want to. You have time to stop me from putting this mask on my face because it is moving towards it very slowly. So anytime you want to say something, you can. And of course, Roland stopped. And so it's like, okay. If you don't want to put on the mask, just say you don't want to put it on. But okay. And so they put it, I think he put it in his backpack, or in his, wherever he put it, And so they're like, we should go to a library, and do some research. And then they were like, wait, where's Jessica? And I was like, oh, let's rewind time here. Let's see what happened from Jessica's point of view. And so she ran out of the shop, and Reefly's just like, she's just going to keep running straight through. Just keep on running. And I'm like, wow, okay, roll a luck. He rolls like a 3. And I'm like, okay, you run like straight through Cairo through like 37 alleys, and you end up right in front of the hotel. And so it was like ridiculous. But then he's like, I don't really want to play as this character anymore. This character is worthless. And I agree, she was pretty worthless. Not because she's a girl, just because she didn't have any, you can make a kick-ass, whatever. You can make a big game hunter and just make her a girl, who cares? But she was just worthless all around. So we've had 2 psychologists, and both of them were pretty shit. So maybe someday we'll get somebody good at psychology, but not yet. And so I was like, well, if you want to make a new character, I'm not going to stop you. So, yeah. So I was like, okay, that luck roll didn't happen. You ran through Cairo, but you went down the wrong alley. And so Jessica Harrington met a somewhat horrible end at the hands of a few Cairene men. Yeah, we won't go into details. But yeah, that was the last her father ever spoke to her. He'll get some... I don't even know if he would ever find out. He didn't have any idea where she was. They'll probably rob her of everything and just leave her as a naked corpse in some Cairo alley. So, yeah, he'll just never hear from his daughter again. That's really terrible. Jeez. So they're just like, well, we'll wait like half an hour, but if she doesn't show up, we'll just assume the worst. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So they go to the library, they do some research, they look up the Mosque of Ibn Tulun, so they get a location for that. Gulk somehow gets an address for Warren Bassart, which is very difficult to find, especially in a university library. So they didn't question it, they're just like, oh, damn, man, nice. You're supposed to get that address by going to like the French embassy or some shit and talking to them, but no, Gulk will handle that for you. And they also find out some info about the Black Pharaoh, I think. Oh, no, not the Black Pharaoh. What did Roland look up? Oh, maybe he did look up... No, he looked up the Clive expedition, that's right. So, yeah, they didn't find much, because they're in a university library, but they found a couple news clippings. And I did say that they were all from the same newspaper, the Cairo Bulletin. That's a clue, guys. And basically, you know, the Clive expedition out in Memphis, led by Dr. Henry Clive, paid for by the Penhew Foundation. Nothing major. Give them some leads to go off of. And they went back to the hotel, went to bed, and that's pretty much it. So that's 3 character deaths in one session. First session in Cairo, off to a great start. Now, admittedly, none of those were because of the campaign elements. They were all because of my elements, more or less. But my elements are the campaign elements, so whatever, it doesn't matter. You're all in it, baby. So yeah, we have some new characters coming in now. The only people left are Roland and Richard, who are the newest characters as well. We had kind of a flush out there. So I don't know many details about new characters. I don't know really what Reefley's new character is. I believe Ren's new character is a demolitionist. That'll be fantastic. I've been waiting the entire campaign for that. No joke. Because explosions will solve some problems, but not all problems. And they may create some problems. Ziggy's new character is going to be interesting. He's basically like a hick who owns a pet raccoon. And he's made a big deal with Yog-Sothoth. All of that was true. I don't know how that's all going to work. I don't know why he's in Cairo. Ziggy's going to write up a backstory for me. Because Ed was our spellcaster character, I said I was going to allow 1. But since Ed is gone, and he didn't really get to do it much, I decided, sure, somebody else can do it. So Ted McNugget, the hick, is going to be our new spellcaster, potentially. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, so next time we're going to have to introduce all these new characters in Cairo. Like, I feel like Jonah Kensington is just this distant memory, kind of. We'll see. And they're going to have to check out this Warren Bassart guy. They're going to check out the Clive expedition, the Mosque of Ibn Tulun, and poor Mahmud. Alright, so yeah, crazy first session in Cairo. I'm looking forward to the rest of it. Luckily, we had this little session. It was good. So, yeah, that pretty much wraps that up. I don't know if there's anything else for me to really talk about. But you saw that, we have spells now. They're out in the wild. You can get spells. This isn't the start of the campaign, so it's possible. And you saw the power that they wrought, Not completely overpowered, but just the right amount of overpowered. Reginald was draining sanity pretty quickly. And if he had cast Fist of Yog-Sothoth a couple more times, he would have gone insane, which would have been bad for everybody. But, yeah, Reginald Steinway, man, he was a good guy. I liked him. Oh God! And I was like, Ziggy lamented that was the longest running character in our campaign. I was like, the only way that can happen again is if another character makes a pact with Nyarlathotep, because naturally there's no way you're going to survive that long. Reginald should have been killed a few times. But yeah, that's Call of Cthulhu, baby. It's great stuff. So we'll be back in like 9 days-ish. We'll be back for another session to continue our Cairo adventures with our new characters. CoC will still be hanging around. He'll be a useful guy. He's resourceful, You can help him out. It's great. But, alright. My name is Mang. This has been Roll Mangging for our Call of Cthulhu campaign, and I'll see you fine folks in about a week.